about it. But all right, so let's jump into this story here. We've talked a lot about New York banning gas in your apartments, new buildings, all this stuff, because climate change and all that crap. Well, it's expanding now. Starting next year, new buildings in Oak Park, which is in Chicago, an industrial part of Chicago, must be all electric. Oaks Park electrification ordinance will go into effect on January 2024 and bans fossil fuels like natural gas from use in newly built homes and commercial buildings. While Oak Park is the first city in the state and in the Midwest to pass such an ordinance, the practice is becoming more and more common in cities from states like Washington, Massachusetts, and California, including Los Angeles, and New York is poised to become the first state to ban new natural gas hookups following New York City's similar legislation that passed in 2021. So, you guys, you got to get away from these Marxist metropolitan areas. They're just absolutely unhinged, and the science is absolute complete crap. Okay, we've the climate science. Nobody, if you're funding scientists through federal grants and all that, they're going to say exactly what you want them to say every single time. And then you get somebody like this that speaks out, and they absolutely tear them apart. So this is from Patrick Moore. He says, Dr. John F. Clauser, Nobel Prize in Physics in 2022, pulls no punches in his critique of the quote-unquote climate crisis hoax. He is now a board member of the CO2 Coalition. Read his facts about clouds, roles, and temperatures. And I did that for you guys. So just to highlight a couple things from here, it says Dr. John F. Clauser, joint recipient of the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics, criticized the climate emergency narrative by calling it, quote, a dangerous corruption of science that threatens the world's economy and the well-being of billions of people. He has criticized the awarding of the 2021 Nobel Prize for work in the development of computer models predicting global warming, according to a coalition of scientists and commentators who argue that an informed discussion about CO2 would recognize its importance in sustaining plant life. So, I mean, this is something that I've always wondered. Like, why is CO2 bad? Plants breathe that. But, like, why would CO2 be a bad thing? He goes on to say, in a statement issued by the CO2 Coalition, Nobel laureate John Clauser, elected to CO2 Coalition Board of Directors, said that, quote, there's no climate crisis and that increasing CO2 concentrations will benefit the world, end quote. He criticized the prevalent climate models as being unreliable and not accounting for the dramatic temperature stabilizing feedback of clouds, which he said is more than 50 times as powerful as the radiative forcing effect of CO2.
It's funny when they talk about like climate change as if it's a science, when how many predictions have they been wrong about? I mean, it started with Al Gore, telling us like, oh, yep, we're all screwed. And he gave a date, was it like 2000 or something, or 2005, came and gone. I mean, how many times have these people like, if we don't do something by this date, the world's going to be destroyed? And it's never happened.
Yeah,
like, how can it be a science? How is this a science? And how are they so right about this and we're freaking out about this when they've literally been wrong every step of the way?
They just keep moving the goalposts. Oh, well, this is
exactly
this is a working science, and winning the Nobel Prize for computer models. Remember, it's a computer model that shut us all down for COVID. Remember that British computer model that was like, oh man, this COVID thing, if we don't lock down right now, we're going to lose like 250 million people or 2 billion people or some crap like that. And as we started progressing more and more through COVID, it's like that model, even the scientists came out and they're like, that model was crap. It was absolute crap. And it's the same thing we're seeing here. I mean, it's like every single election cycle, we get a new prediction. Greta Thunberg's just came false, came up as untrue. It was like last month was the 5-year hiatus or a 5-year delta of her saying that we were all going to die. So it's just all crap, man.
Yeah, it's Michael 44NC in the chat says it's not a science, it's a grift. That is true, but it's also this is how they operate, right? They use something and they use fear, like something to cause fear, to get you guys to do something, to get all of us to do something. And that's where if you can just see it for what it is and not be afraid of it, which a majority of the population I think understands it's a joke. There was a poll like almost a year ago now where like 99% of the country didn't care about climate change, right? But they still push that agenda. There's money behind it for sure, but it's a method of control and fear.
Yeah, absolutely. depopulation is always their end game, and this is just another way to get around to their end game. It puts this Marxist ideology and climate change, it's cultural Marxism, it's going to divide us one way or the other. And then what they'll end up doing with that is, you go back and look at like India. I think it was India in the 70s where they sterilized millions of men. Like, that's their end game. Depopulation is their goal, and they won't be happy until probably 40 or 50% of the population on this planet is just completely gone. Own nothing, be happy. And
there's a great comment in the chat. Your 10-day weather forecast is a computer model. Look how wrong it is every day. That's from Larry Ulrich, 2020. That's so true. They can't even get the weather right. I mean, for a day in advance sometimes. Like, how many times do they mess that up? But we're supposed to take their word that, the weather and climate is going to be this in 10 years. They have no idea.
The Farmer's Almanac is way more accurate than the weather. Yeah. If you go and read the Farmer's Almanac, and that's way more accurate. So a couple things I just want to cover. This was over the weekend, or maybe it was late last week, but activists used concrete and epoxy resin mixture to glue their hands to the road. And now, like, there's actually, like, I haven't followed up on this, but they were saying that they might have to amputate their hands because of what they did. And so we have this video here, and let me get this video queued up here. I want to play this. It's in German, so I'm going to translate for you. Ouch. Nothing hurts. Some son of a bitch threw his hands into the concrete. Won't cut off the finger. These people are idiots, man.
Why the hell would you do that? This is saying, like,
epoxy resin, dude.
Dude, liberalism, man. It's a mental illness. Like, who in their right mind, like anybody that is sane, would not do that?
Dude, I got nothing. I honestly, like, who said that was a good idea? Like, hey, let's go ahead and glue. Like, you've seen the people lately gluing their hands to the paintings and all that stuff. They're just using glue. Like, even super glue, yeah, you're gonna rip the skin off. That kind of hurts. But, like, actually taking concrete and epoxy resin, mixing them together and putting your hands in that and letting it harden. Like, what in the hell are you thinking?
What were they protesting, though?
Climate or something. Nobody even knows what these people are protesting anymore.
It just makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense.
I think they did it in like a runway. I think there was at least some of them did it on like a runway so that planes couldn't take off. Darwinism, man, just go anyways. If you run them over, you run them over. I don't know what to say, man.
Free will. They freely chose to put themselves in the middle of a runway, whatever. They are part of the road now, and so whatever.
All right, so we got some. It's not really news. We kind of talked about this already. Got a little bit more on this from CBS. Justice Department asks the judge in the Trump documents case to disregard his motion to seek delay. The Justice Department asked a Florida federal judge Thursday to disregard former President Donald Trump's request for an indefinite delay in the federal